Um, Hello, everyone. Glad to meet you all, and thanks, Jeff, for that warm welcome. I'm going to quickly share my screen and get us started here. Oh, good. You guys can see my screen. So
Mhm.
imagine you've spent hours asking ChatGPT or Claude or any other AI assistant to help create a presentation. You've gone back and forth trying to explain exactly what you need, rephrasing your request, fixing errors, only to end up doing most of the important work yourself. Despite all of the AI hype, you wonder why it cannot just understand very simple nuance requests that you have, that any human colleague or a friend can understand very easily. That right there is what we call technology failure. It's a human centricity failure. Hello, everyone. My name is Abhai Pratap Singh. I am currently a product manager at Amazon Alexa. And today we are diving into something that affects all of us. It's crafting AI products that genuinely serve humans rather than just forcing humans to adapt to technology. In the next 45 minutes, I'll share frameworks and insights from my experience on how to bridge that critical gap between impressive AI capabilities and actual human needs. I'll try and cover no inside baseball or jargon, just practical approaches that you can apply in your day to day lives. Um, Before we go ahead, just a quick disclaimer. Everything I share today represents my personal views based on my experiences and not the official position of any organization that I've worked with. And of course, in the rapidly evolving AI landscape, perspectives evolve as we learn more. So there's obviously going to be more things as we discover. With that out of our way, let's get to what really matters. There are some of the companies that I've had the privilege to work with. Each of them have taught me valuable lessons about the intersection of technology and human needs. Um, on S&P, I was working on financial products. Tata 1MG working on healthcare products, especially AI and ML focused on improving the healthcare outcomes of the patients in India. Point Click Care specifically focused on senior living facilities and the outcomes in those particular settings. Uh, E-commerce products across Home Depot and Amazon.com, and then very recently Alexa and recently Alexa Plus. In each of these roles, I have focused on that one single thread. I enjoy building products which create ripple effects and can and truly enjoy experience where areas where I've had the luxury of turning just thoughts and ideas into magical experiences. Let me quickly share what I've learned across this way. And the first things that I want to get out of the way is what are we going to cover today? So we'll start by examining what's happening today as a part of the AI revolution, why this moment demands that there needs to be a shift in our approach on how we are building these products. We'll also explore why human centricity really matters and why should we care about it. We'll cover some of the strategy frameworks and um, successful frameworks to ensure that we are building meaningful AI products. The core of our discussion will focus on practical frameworks that will help you build products, which include guiding principles, success metrics, and also balancing quality with development speed. Finally, we'll also get into some implementation considerations, into like defining what considerations we should think about, especially in the context of Gen AI and LLMs, which are the rage in today's world. And then how do you differentiate between a frustrating or a delightful experience in all of those contexts? Sounds good? Okay, let's jump in. The AI revolution, as we call it. So we are living through an unprecedented technological shift, as one may call it. AI is no longer confined to
It's loud.
research.
Clementine is a bit
So,
hybrid. Uh,
so AI is no longer confined to research labs or like tech giants in all in all. It's in our pockets, it's in our homes, and in our workplaces. Like, even if we look at a quick mental inventory from the day to day, um, I'm sure many of you would have used AI products just starting from your start of your day, whether it's your email spam filter, the recommended videos on YouTube, your smartphone's autocorrect, probably more than you even realize. This revolution brings across an immense promise. Automation that frees us from the tedious tasks, capabilities that extend human potential, and solutions that we couldn't have tackled before and just making them easier to solve. But it also comes at some challenges which we need to resolve. It also comes at the risk of ethical considerations, some privacy concerns that we've had and tackled for a while. It has also come with some hysteria around job displacement, unintended consequences that we are only beginning to understand or scratch the surface for. The question right now in my head isn't whether AI will transform our world. It's already transforming the world. The real question is, how do we ensure these powerful technologies enhance human lives rather than diminish them? This balance is what separates truly transformative products from just expensive disappointments. Let's quickly understand one of the fundamental problems that I've observed in a lot of the products that interacted with, which I call the technology to the value gap. On the left, we have the technology push, where companies are racing to implement the latest AI advancements just because they can, um, often focusing on features and capabilities that look impressive in demos, presentations, but often fall flat when actually users get to using them. On the right, we actually have actual human needs, what users truly want, um, what solutions will make their lives even better, experiences that feel intuitive, and value that addresses the problems that they face in their day-to-day lives. When the two sides don't align, we create as one of as one what we call is a solution that is begging for a problem. I've watched several companies invest millions in AI capabilities that users simply ignore or actively avoid. A recent example was the Humane AI pin, a $700 device with cutting edge projection technology and sophisticated AI models. As one reviewer quoted there, like, why would I pin this to my shirt where my phone does everything better? It was plagued with problems around poor battery life, struggled with basic tasks, and ultimately didn't solve any user problems better than what a phone would actually still do. Or even the Google Glass, which was a brilliant engineering marvel, but that created more social awkwardness rather than value for the users. That is the gap that we are trying to address today, and how can we ensure that we don't fall uh, on those problems again? But even before we get into it, we have to first level set and understand, is centricity just a feel good philosophy, or does it deliver tangible results? The data, as we've seen it, clearly says that human-centered AI delivers 3x higher adoption rates and a 60% higher customer satisfaction rate compared to any other technology-driven approaches. This directly translates to ROI and competitive advantage, and also ensures that customers get true value, and businesses also get quantifiable impact for implementing these things. But there's also some cautionary tales. Like I was talking about the Humane AI pin. Some of you may be familiar with 2010s Microsoft's Tay chatbot, which Within 24 hours of launch, was just a nightmare given the fact of how it became, um, for lack of a better word, racist in its actual interactions with the real world, because it didn't account for how humans really interact with technology. IBM Watson, another great example, because it didn't adequately address the clinical workflows and human context in the healthcare environment. And a statistics that I really want to quote here is the fact that 88% of consumers want transparency, and when they are interacting with AI, that's the prime most thing for them to bridge that gap. Trust is that foundation of customer adoption when they think about these contexts, and human-centered design actually builds that context for them. This isn't just about making customers happier, though that matters. It's about creating products that deliver on the business promise rather than just creating digital dust where no user uses those products. Um, let's look at some AI products that are getting it right by enhancing human experiences. Autonomous vehicles. I think Tesla's self-driving technology transforms mind-numbing commutes into productive time. Um, there is I don't know how many of you are familiar with the recent neural networks and computer vision advances that they've done, but the technology or the technological advances that they've made can truly be witnessed by people who are actually using the self-driving features, and then they can give back people hours of their lives, which actually transforms to real value. Um, Voice assistants, which the likes of Alexa, Google Home that we use on an everyday basis in our homes. The AR glasses, which blend in like the Meta's AR glasses with Ray-Ban that blend in the digital information in our worlds and then bring that to the physical reality, enhancing not just our understanding of the world, but just contextual information in general. And then the conversational AI agents like ChatGPT, which we're already pretty familiar and have seen a lot of. In the context of this, let's level set about the tech for tech's sake trap, where companies get into this loophole of just building feature factories, build shipping features which may not be great. Metrics misalignment happen. I don't know if you've seen areas where teams celebrate a 2% model accuracy improvement that makes no substantial difference in how the user experience will be. There's complexity creep where we make products extremely hard to use and then discover features and then making each interaction with that product even more difficult for the users. And then at the end of the funnel, as a result of all of this, there's value dilution that starts to occur, and unnecessary things start to distract the users, and they start or stop to drive value out of that overall equation. Some real world examples are like productivity tools that you've seen, Copilot and Workspace AI, where we've seen that all of these analyze data and draft emails, but actually miss the user context. One of the success stories in this is Notion, which actually understands the context in which you are and then gives you more pointed suggestions to make improvements. Now, let's quickly go into how can we get beyond these problems and actually solve problems with a very defined human-centered AI framework. So I propose this framework which with four key principles. First is start with the users, understand their needs deeply before considering solutions. Second, define clear metrics that measure the actual human value and not just technical performance. And third, prioritize quality to build trust through reliable experiences. And fourth is focus on solving real problems using technology as a means rather than end. And I focus a lot more on the fourth point is because it starts with all of the above in just pedagogy order. Um, while we center our development around these principles, we create products that create lasting value rather than just fleeting technical novelty. Like, for example, Ghibli images that are all the rage for now. It's a great technical novelty, but very little impact in terms of the problems that it solves for its users. So let's explore each of these principles in more depth and practical applications on how we can go about these. So the first principle that we should start with is that you need to start with all of these in terms of understanding what the true user needs is. Whether it's understanding contextual ways of how your users are actually interacting with the product. Um, I've been in several sessions where I've really um, learned new interaction patterns by just observing how people interact with the products that I've built in the past and actually just understanding how they use this product in a natural environment. Not just telling them what to do, but just letting them play with whatever product that you're building, whatever feature you're building. And then that gives you so much of perspective into unexpressed frustrations that they have. Users won't tell them that that they want a higher performing model or they want lesser hallucinations or they need more efficient natural language processing. They'll tell you why they are frustrated and what experience they're having. And these experience challenges um, give you that ability to firsthand understand with empathy and then take those learnings back to your engineering teams and try to build that into realistic scenarios and translate those into insights. Um, v- Once you have those experience challenges and then you're framing those into opportunities, define success in very layman human terms. Like for example, user can accomplish an X task in under 30 seconds with zero training rather than implement a feature Y using model Z, which would lead to Y amount of improvement in a model performance. Remember that no amount of technical brilliance can save a product that solves the wrong problem. Um, Quickly going into how can we ensure that we are picking the right things that we solve for our users. I think this is the 101 value evaluation metrics. I'm sure folks who are familiar with product prioritization may have already heard about this. Like once you understand the user needs, this value evaluation metrics help you prioritize based on user value and the technical effort and helps you understand where you should focus your energies into. Like a high user value and a high technical effort, features will become strategic investments that require significant amount of resources and infrastructure to drive revenue. Then there are high value and low effort features, which are your quick wins. A lot of the times we'll find true value which can be implemented easily and will drive high user value as well. Then there are things which are low user value and high technical efforts, complete no. And then obviously low user value and low technical effort. If you have surplus amount of time and you can invest in those areas, you should absolutely do that. A quick plug into user research. How do you do better user research in the AI context? Um, so contextual inquiry is super important in today's world. While while all of the previous researches were done without the context or the environment a user was, a context is super important, like how customers are interacting with your technology and in what setting and with what mental context, physical context, and what are they trying to achieve in that particular scenario informs a lot more about the research than without understanding anything about the context that they're coming from. Also, because these are global products, making sure that you can understand the different cultural contexts of the same request, the same shape of interaction patterns, because every different ethnicity, every different cultural context may have different understanding of several concepts, and we want to make sure that these behaviors that we expect our product to achieve can capture those nuances really well. Um, Another thing that has been or survived the test of time is the voice of customer, which appreciates and gathers direct feedback from the customers and then gets hundreds of conversations. And then based on that, we can quantify what are the problems that the customers are facing. Another thing which is very specific to AI is what we call as prototyping or building specific scenarios by what I am referencing here to is as Wizard of Oz techniques, which essentially means that you're defining the human to AI interaction patterns and what is a good scenario in or a good response in all of those scenarios, and how do you create more and more of those scenarios so that you can train what you're trying to do based on those specific scenarios. The key to integrating these methods into your development process from the beginning and not thinking of them as an afterthought when the problems arise, like being very very mindful that you can start with these versus come to them once your product doesn't succeed. The second most important principle that I want to cover is while you define the problem that you want to solve, you also want to define how and what would mean when what or what success really looks like. Can we quantify that quantum of success? So while we say that there is a problem in human terms, like users struggle to find relevant information when they need it, rather than saying that we need a recommendation algorithm or we need a better search mechanism. So, creating a compelling vision for how AI enhances human experiences, um, this is the most important thing. And then setting measurable metrics that balance that technical performance with the impact that it's creating in the human lives actually bridges that gap overall. The third thing that you also want to focus on is ensuring that both your technical and design teams, and when I say technical in the AI world, it's not just your development teams, it's also your science counterparts, your machine learning counterparts, your infrastructure counterparts, that you have a very shared vision of human centered priorities. Like you all understand that this is the vision that we are trying to achieve for our customers. And then all of you are working towards the same mission versus a science team just working in isolation trying to optimize the precision and recalls of a model, a design team working on some other metric, internal metric of their own. All of you work on that one single vision or a metric that you've defined for the product success. Speaking of metrics, how do we ensure that you're truly measuring what really matters? So user-centered metrics focus on the overall human experience. Um, for example, are humans or users completing tasks faster? Are they accomplishing goals they couldn't do before? Are they reporting higher satisfaction? All of these matter in the context of the actual thing that they are trying to achieve. There's also technical performance that we have to keep a track of, because at Amazon, what we've call them a lot of these metrics, we some of these we call as input metrics, some of these we call as output metrics. A lot of the times you can't um, influence the output metrics, but input metrics are what you actually can optimize for. and then tracking those input metrics ensure that your output metrics are on track and are on the path of success. Like for example, um, how if a customer buys a particular product, that is an output metric. So your revenue is an output metric. But to ensure that there is some input metrics, like making sure that your product is in stock, there is always an offer available. Like those are the metrics that you can control and make sure that that enhances the um, end metric of, say, for example, conversion, where customers buy that product as a function of your product being available. In all of these contexts, like business metrics are also super important. So you have to make sure your AI implementation also connects to the business impact, like whether it's efficiency, cost, revenue, or resource optimization. And then also making sure you're covering for both leading and lagging indicators, which inform the complete picture of the feature or of the product that you are going to ship. I've seen teams obsess over technical metrics while completely missing the fact that users were just abandoning their product and not caring about adoption, retention, and not tracking churn. Don't make that mistake. Measure what actually matters to your customers, actually matters to humans. The third principle that I also want to cover is the eternal tension between the quality and speed in AI development. There's a real cost to shipping too early in the context of the AI world. We've seen that happen with Google's Bard. Premature AI releases damages user trust, and first impressions are remarkably persistent. A user who asks your chatbot or your AI feature a question and gets nonsense back is likely not going to give it another second chance. Response times or latency is a critical quality factor that's often overlooked. Slow responses frustrate the customers regardless of whether you're even got the accurate answer. Um, we at Amazon have indexed very highly on latency because we've seen that that is a one metric that ensures that users continue to interact with your product over and over again as a function of the latency. For example, in the voice assistants world, users expect that latency to be real time as you're talking to a human. So as fast as how humans would respond back to a question that you pose to them, um, these humans will have the same set of guardrails and benchmarks for AI assistants as well. So setting clear quality um, guardrails and quality bars is super important for your product to be successful. And then it's very important that I call out here that while you make these uh, metrics, you also ensure that there's controlled rollouts, which lets you refine your product, your feature with real user feedback before broad deployment. Um, at the end of the day, there's a lot of features that we ship today require human in the loop, where we can get some amount of feedback and we can train better. And that's where we can look at either starting with dog fooding, internal users, friendly customers, and then going to like targeted segments before the full release. Remember, like temporary glory of being first to the market fades quickly if your product delivers a poor experience. Reputation is hard to build and very easy to lose. Cool. In the sense of how do you prioritize these features the right way? In the customer first framework, always start like with one question that I call, is this making my customers' lives better? If if the answer for that is yes, it becomes the first principle for you to say, this is a feature, this is a problem that I need to solve, and this feature will give tangible benefit to my customer. You also have to understand like technical debt evaluation at most of the times. I think at any given point of time, there's some amount of bloat in your system that you want to optimize for performance in the future. So some amount of time goes to just technical debt. And then also thinking about like things which are not there yet, but can be good ideas, but can't be built right now. So those ones would require like uh, thinking about what data needs to be, do we want to think about today? What do we need for these features to be successful? And then thinking about like how do we defer those features or slowly, gradually start building the foundational blocks for those features. And then at the end of the funnel, also preventing feature bloat. If users don't use particular features, if they just don't deliver enough values, be ruthless to say we will cut down these features or we will not support these features, and be very critical to ensure that you're giving the right value to the customers in those scenarios. Principle 4, and I see a lot of product builders actually fall flat here. um, my advice: build products, not artifacts. A lot of PMs just focus on building the most shiny artifact, and that artifact could be a vision document, a PRFAQ, a presentation which actually talks about just the problem that they want to solve versus actually shipping the product. So avoid creating these just artifact documents. Focus on the real value that you can ship for your customers ASAP. Ensure these features can integrate seamlessly with the existing workflows, and actually test and try these features in real world than just having them live in some documents. Come with data, come with hypotheses, and try and build those solutions end to end versus just coming up with ideas in text. N- and to clarify, not saying that we don't need to have strategy documents or don't need to have vision documents or PRFAQs, but using all of these as anchor to guide our decisions, anchor on what it needs to go from vision to implementation and then the final product so that we can deliver the actual promise to the customer. So build products that solve the end-to-end problems rather than just artifacts that leave your development teams or other PMs to figure out how do they go about and build that. Be a product builder and not just a technology developer. In the interest of time, I'll quickly cover some LLM considerations as well. Um, the features and interfaces that we are building today, especially in the AI world, also need to understand some of the things that we need to be mindful of, and whether it's data strategy, which is ensuring that we are building comprehensive training data sets that actually reflect the user scenarios. And when I talk about user scenarios, these might be contextual user scenarios. These might be new interaction patterns. These might be how humans interact with each other versus, say, humans talking to assistant where they're giving commands. Your training data is only your training data defines the actual experience and how um, this experience will work not just for a certain set of users but for everyone, and ensures that you're building a fail-safe mechanism for a large set of customers. And latency management, I think I've talked about this previously as well. LLMs are notoriously slow because they're always anchored on generating tokens, which is the next word. um, well, humans don't talk in that way. That humans talk in sentences, so they've already formed, versus like the next token that they're thinking of. So there's different expectations in terms of how conversations really matter versus how tokens are generated in these as outputs. And when we talk about LLMs, there's no way in the world that we can skip cost aspect of it. whether it's the input token cost, whether it's output token cost, whether it's operational costs of the overall model deployment. So making sure that these are on the back of your mind, because these, even though these costs are going down every day, for in the last 2 years they've gone down by a factor of almost 100x, and will continue to become cheaper and cheaper. Yet for your use cases, in some cases you may require bigger models that have higher costs. For some cases you may require smaller models which have lower cost. So just making sure that you have those option value available for you and those cost optimizations there. And then at the end of the funnel, you also want to ensure that there's safety and resilience. Um, so consistency in your answers, consistencies in your scenarios that you want your users to achieve, ensuring that there's no harmful content, and all of these robust content filters or graceful fallbacks, all of these unexpected scenarios are actually covered for, and making sure that these are not just engineering details, but these are consistently true for all of these scenarios. Making sure that all of these are covered as part of your building experiences so that you can have trustworthy experience for your customers. Context, I think I've um, talked about this in some shape and form, but I want to hit this home with one final thing. Context is crucial yet often overlooked in the AI product development world. Um, a technical view, which right now most of the technical products that exist out there, each interaction is treated as isolated and optimizing for accuracy on individual prompts without considering the broader user journey or situation in which they're trying to achieve that task. Um, Humans are centered in that context. Humans actually understand those specific contexts and workflows, and then they understand differently on how you should interact in a different context. So making sure that generative features, when you're building those things, you're building for those human-centered tasks, and then how context defines what output should differ with, and what actions, different actions you need to take for that context. So making sure that um, you're understanding and designing for that context, because if you don't do that, we are creating technically capable but humanly awkward experiences that will feel disconnected from the users and would feel like they just have a memory of a goldfish. um, for example, I'm taking a couple of things from the Alexa playbook, um, like a voice assistant, in terms of what is the contextual understanding that a voice assistant may need to have. Like a voice assistant, if it's in your kitchen, it needs to understand that you're in a cooking context, your hands are busy, so voice becomes your primary mode of interaction. More visual information is needed, because which is glanceable versus and easily readable, and then voice, and you switch between voice and visual as your interaction models. Morning routines, which is also every morning you want the lights to be turned on, you want your favorite I don't know, music routine, you want to check what's on your calendar for that particular day. Everything is set up in that morning routine. Or in entertainment mode, where you want to discover the content, you want to listen to content, and then all of that actually complements with the visuals that you see on your smart home screens or your actual visual devices as well. In the context of the entire Gen AI world, I think one of the things that a lot of people are not talking about right now, but practitioners heavily index on evaluations. And I want to quickly touch upon evaluations, and evaluations being that language of PRDs for the future. So evaluations, um, just level setting. What are evaluations? So evaluations streamline AI product development by creating a common language across teams. They bridge the communication gaps between product managers, scientists, and engineers, like product managers who understand like what is the needs of the user, engineers who will actually build the system, and scientists or who will actually train the models to deliver that outcome. When everyone agrees on what success looks like, there's high amount of alignment and everything happens very naturally. So as product builders in the Gen AI or the LLM space, focus on building small and specific evaluations. Evaluations in a nutshell are, how do you want your human to AI interactions to happen, and what is an ideal behavior, defining those as a small set of user data set, and then defining what is good, what is bad, what is worse, and then having some amount of measurement around it. Now the measurement that one may use is some objective tools that already exist out there, like AI judges or LLM as a judge. You can use human annotators. You can use some algorithm way to measure those performance, whether it's similarity index or any other indexes that you can use to actually understand and baseline where your performance really is and how can you improve on that performance going forward. As a function of doing this, you once you analyze patterns in the wrong answers or in the behaviors which you don't really want, then you'll understand what is missing in your model performance and how can you meaningfully update that performance. Where your AI fails is when you will understand that that's where the 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 valuable insights for you to work on will actually come from. Um, Also to level set, like robust evaluation isn't just a quality check, it's a compass that defines the entire product development journey going forward. And last but not the least, the ethical considerations. In the context of today's world, ethics isn't separate from product development. It's integral to creating AI that genuinely enhances human lives rather than creating new problems. um, Build ethics into your process from day one. At Amazon, we call it privacy by design. So we ensure that all of the products that we are building from day one, we can ensure that there is privacy and ethical considerations built in for the product, ensuring that we have different users needs already built in. We can monitor and adapt consequences and ensure that there are right guardrails that we have in that process. As we quickly wrap up, here are the some key takeaways from this discussion. While you're building these AI products, ensure that you're putting human needs first. I've been a broken record to say that over and over again. Prioritize what people actually need over what's technically possible, and then technology serves humans and not vice versa. um, Drive the development of these products, features with a very clear strategy, establish goals and metrics which are actually meaningful and connect to genuine human outcomes. Um, Prioritize quality over speed, build trust through reliability rather than just going or racing against a market timeline that isn't going to give you true value. First impressions matter a lot in the AI product space. And then solve for solve with a problem focused approach. Um, Eradicate human challenges instead of just showcasing your technical capabilities, because that's what is going to create sticky products that users would want to come and use over and over again. Okay. Cool. With that, I'd like to close with this thought that beyond all the metrics and the frameworks that we've talked about today, the ultimate measure of success for any product or a feature is its success on the human impact. AI should enhance lives in meaningful ways, and then help, whether it's helping elderly population, whether it's enabling families to connect across distances, making environments more accessible, supporting students in their learning journeys. All of these human outcomes are what truly matter. And if we can get them at the center of our work, the technical achievements will naturally flow in the genuine sense of the word. With that, thank you for your attention, and I am excited to hear your thoughts and questions.
Thank you so much, Abhai. I did want to apologize for the unauthorized intrusion at the start of the talk, but Abhai, thank you for being a professional and handling moving forward. We're going to kick off Q&A with some questions from Katie from Technically, and then we will open it up to anyone who's here. If you have a question, you can start putting them right in the chat at this point, and we'll be able to share them with Abhai.
Thank you both. Yeah, I'll keep an eye on the chat for these questions. There's a lot of different directions we could go. But I loved how you ended on the human impact here and putting the customer first, but we can't plan for everything. Is there an example of a time there was a human quirk that you couldn't account for in the initial project development and you had to adapt to it later? And how do you handle taking in that feedback and putting that change out there for a product that's already live?
Yeah, I think we've had several of those in the context of Alexa. Like one of the common examples that I like to quote whenever you're talking to Alexa. So I work for the music experiences, and when I talked about um, how users interact with all of these assistants today is, for example, you listen to Hello by Adele, and on an everyday, you go up to your assistant and say, Alexa, play Hello. And Alexa plays Hello by Lionel Richie. And you're perplexed and you're thinking about it. Alexa, I listen to Hello by Adele every day. And you quickly go and do course correction and say, Alexa, play Hello by Adele. And it gets the right song for you. Those are the kind of interaction, those are the kind of moments which you can't preempt, because those are personal preferences. Those are things which customers want on an everyday basis. Now, as an assistant or as a human, you would now remember that Abhay prefers Hello by Adele versus the Lionel Richie version, or or vice versa, or somebody else prefers the other versions of those songs. All of these things become nuances. So if you have an agent which has a memory of a goldfish, it's never going to remember that and is always going to fall flat on our face. Like these kind of insights help us enable like better interaction patterns. Like how can we think about more contextual awareness, more preferences? Like if a customer wants to just tell like, hey, I am vegetarian, I like y kind of food, my daughter doesn't eat spicy food. Like all of these things that you can tell a human, and then human can remember all of these things and customize those things for you. You weren't able to do that in the previous world. So when we started to think about building Alexa Plus, like those are the problems that we wanted to solve for our customers. Like getting the technology out of the way and just thinking about the problems that we can solve for the users, which will just make it easier for them without having the frustrations.
Yeah.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does. And it seems like, I mean, that's something that comes up after the fact. So you would just issue an update and work on it? Or like how are you on that efficiently and speedily when someone is like for the fourth time play hello, I'm so frustrated.
Yeah. So all of those things we do take into account. Like we have metrics that measure those things in terms of user perceived behaviors, and then how they are having challenges with certain interactions. I wouldn't say it's like things that we can fix immediately. Like some of the things are, if Alexa doesn't get a specific version of this song right for everyone, we can have a quick fix. But these personalization things, which is a specific personal preference, these require like thoughtful fixes. And so when we look at our feedback or or user interaction patterns. Those are the things that we try and look for. Like, how can we improve those experiences better? And then in our next updates or features, those are the things that we try and fix for the users.
Got it. And it looks like
Yeah.
we have our first question in the chat. As an intern PM, I'm guessing that's product manager. Can I use these frameworks on an individual basis, or should this be implemented from a founder/leadership level? What do you think?
I think you can use them as an individual basis, like an individual contributor, or you can use them as a founder or leadership level, because these principles are very core of what in the product management world you'd call the first principle thinking. The first principle thinking starts with the premise that what problem are you looking to solve for? And is that problem really important? What is the gravity of that problem? Because as PMs, a lot of times you're plagued with 100 problems that you can solve for your users. So you have to be laser focused on, why do I need to solve this now? And what is the true impact it'll have on my users? And then you can, like I was talking about the prioritization framework, like you can use all of those to identify, like, hey, if I solve this problem, this is the metric that I will impact. These many users will be impacted or will benefit out of it. And as a result of this, this is the business outcome I will have. So it becomes a guiding light for you to decide which features that you should invest on and how those become the next thing that you roll out for your customers. So I would say it's pretty fluid and can be used by both individual contributors and whether you're in a leadership role.
All right, and we have a follow-up question, a bit off topic, but I think that's okay. Should a non-technical PM focus on interacting with users and understanding the problem in depth, or should I spend time becoming more technical?
I think as a PM, you have to first be really, really focused on the consumer. Um, if you don't understand the customer well, then no amount of technical understanding is going to help you bridge that gap. The technical aspects of that come at a later stage when you're actually solving for that problem. And I think more often than not, you have technical experts with you in these situations, like your software development manager, your engineers, your science counterparts, who will have better or or I wouldn't say better, but we'll have more nuanced examples on how that solution will work out from a technical standpoint, and are you focused on the right thing? So, and at the end of the day, you are the voice of the customer in those meetings. You're the person who's proxy for the customer. So if you really understand the customer really well, then when you're in these technical discussions with your counterparts, you'll be able to anchor on why a technical design or a technical solution that has been put there is going to cover that.
Great. Thank you so much. Oh, we have one more, and I know we're at 6, so we may only have time for a few more. So I'm gonna grab this. Jeff, you call out the time if this is the last one, or we have time for one more after this. Thank you so much for speaking to us today. I agree. I wanted to ask, what's your most challenging aspect that you encounter with Amazon Alexa specifically? Also, how do you make sure to keep the customer always in mind throughout the entire product cycle? Sorry.
Yeah. Um, Fantastic question. I think some of the challenges which are unique to Alexa is a communal device for most of the times. When I say a communal device, if you compare to any other hardware product out there, like a phone, your AirPods, your iPad, your laptop, for the matter of fact, all of these are very personal devices. So the person that's mostly interacting with them is the user itself or the owner itself. Whereas Alexa, which occupies the prime real estate in your living room, is often a communal device. Um, you might interact with it, your kids might interact with it, your spouse might interact with it, and all of them have different expectations of the interactions and different expectations in terms of guardrails, in terms of privacy, and in terms of any other things that we need to be mindful of. So when you're thinking about building for a communal product, like that aspect in itself is super hard and super challenging. You have to think about not just the nuances of what different users' expectation is, whether it's whether it's at a customer level, whether it's a person level, and then making sure that you can actually enhance the experiences of all of those individuals separately without carrying over context, without carrying over um, any of the things that will actually make the experience terrible for the other person. Like one of the examples that I was just quoting, like if I as Abhay like Hello by Adele and my wife likes Hello by Lionel Richie, and then my wife and we both listen to this particular song every single day. If for whatever reason Alexa starts playing the wrong versions for us, it is definitely a trust buster moment that we want to avoid for our customers. Like those are the kind of challenges that I would say are the most problematic. And to answer your second question is how do I ensure or how do we ensure that the customer is always the center? um, there's a concept at Amazon which we call the empty chair in all of the meetings, and the empty chair is what we call is the chair of the customer, where even if you're in a meeting room, there's a chair that's designated for the customer, which is don't forget the value that it brings to your customer, irrespective of whether the customer is in that room when you're making that decision or not. So that becomes a guiding principle for everyone to think about, like, hey, whatever we are building, what is the true customer value that we are shipping out? Um, is that going to be easily understandable by the user? And that becomes like the first thing that you think about. So the first thing that when we're thinking about a new feature, we are thinking about a PR FAQ, which is like a press release of, hey, if John from XYZ city is going to try this product, what is going to be his remarks? Will he say? Is it going to make his life better? And how will we measure that impact? And how will we measure that overall in terms of quality experience? So all of those things become like the first thing we continue and think about.
Great. And I think we have time for a couple more questions if you're still good, Abhai, if that works.
Yeah, absolutely. I can take a couple of more.
All right, I can read the one that just popped up if that's all right. Earlier you mentioned the AI pin at such a high level. How do these mishaps happen when so many smart and experienced people are involved? And thanks so much, by the way, Eloise said.
Yeah. I think it's very difficult from an outsider perspective to understand what really happened that led to the failure. But in a lot of these cases, it's when you're anchoring way more on the technology that can enable something versus how that product or a service is going to be used by customers. A lot of the times when we're thinking about innovating or we are thinking about new features or new products that we want to launch, we want to think about what are customers grounding them to today? Like, what are the alternatives that customers have to solve those problems today? And if those solutions are intuitive enough, why would a customer move to your product? Like, is the switching cost really low? Is the value that you're providing infinitely higher or like at least 5 times higher? If it's not, then it becomes very difficult for users to move from a place where they've already built a ton of micro configurations on and then start using your product. Like, for example, um, um, maybe I'm using my Whoop, which has my last 2 years of data, and then it's purely customized to my personal preferences. And for me to switch over to an Aura Ring or an Apple Watch, it would have to be X times, and which I call by a factor of 5, improve my efficiency in some certain way that the cost to move to that new service and do that hard work to re-baseline everything is justified. and I can derive more value out of it. So that's how users also indexed every other product that they use. In the case of Aura Ring, they all of the things that they were able to achieve with a pin, they were already doing with a phone, and and that AI pin was not going to be replaced with a phone because there's still a ton of functions that had to be still continuing to be done by phone. So if people are carrying both their phones and wearing a pin and still not getting enough better quality, not having more terrible battery life capability. So all of those things start to compound and then leads to that, what the conundrum what we call is, like, does your product even have a product market fit? Like, will customers really enjoy using your product? So that became the problem in this case.
So I think unless, oh, we have another question here, and then we might have time for like this question and one more, and then we'll wrap. So we'll see if this still works. Hi, Abhai. Thank you so much for your time. It's very inspiring seeing someone so successful in this field provide input on such topics. I wanted to ask what the time range is in between the invention and production of these products, such as Alexa, especially with keeping so many points in mind about customer satisfactions and technological developments. Are there any ways to speed up this process, especially since Amazon is so innovative and releases new products frequently?
Okay. Okay. The Ramya, if you can um, help me contextualize when you say time range, is there a specific aspect of time range that you have in mind? And feel to just speak. You can unmute yourself.
I was thinking more on like for Alexa, for example, just the whole process of how you thought about it. I mean, I'm guessing like you all with your employees and stuff kind of met up and thought about all these ideas of how to satisfy customer needs and the product needs and make it fast and responsive, like you mentioned. But like how does that process like entail? Like how long does it take to come up with an idea and then produce something like Alexa? Because I mean, based off what you're saying, I would think it takes years because there's so many things you have to keep in mind. So I was just curious as to how the process is gonna look like.
Yeah. I think that time depends on how much things that you want to achieve. So at Amazon, we are laser focused at what we call is the not the ML the MVP, what the industry calls as minimal viable product. What at Amazon we call is minimal lovable product. So what is the minimal feature set that we can deliver to the customer, which is actually going to make the product lovable versus just viable. So that's the intention or the guiding light when we start off with something. So obviously, when you're thinking from a time and value perspective, you want to make sure that you don't want to have all bells and whistles, but you want to ensure that when customers use it on day one, they derive enough value out of it, and that becomes your uh, guiding light of sorts. And when we are thinking about like uh, shipping a particular product, and especially because it's an AI product, there is other things that you have to be mindful of, which always comes with a time factor. Like time factor in the sense of you want to ensure the veracity of the model that's working behind. Alexa is inherently an AI product. So when we talk about veracity, like New Delhi is the capital of India, like getting that right each time is super important. So making sure that your model is grounded in factual reality. And those are the things like, how do you ensure that those things is by making sure that there's consistency. And consistency comes by making sure that there are red teaming, where you're ensuring that all of your responses are vetted by humans in the loop, and then they can ensure that the responses um, uh, are in the right quality measure, and all of that adds some additional amount of time to ensure that your model is trained and fitted perfectly for what your particular use case is. That is the additional time factor that you have to consider. Other than that, I think in the today's world, the pace of building is much, much higher, um, just as a function of the capabilities and the technologies that exist today. Um, unless you're and model is also becoming commoditized now. It's like there's also a ton of hard work that the model companies have already done. So there's option value when you're trying to build on top of that. So you can swap through models, like one model can do one thing, other model can do other things. And there is model optionality, which ensures that you're not trying to train for everything and gives you some amount of freedom and leverage for you to buy that time back for your use case. Does that answer your question, Ramya? Awesome.
I think so. So I think we're gonna do this one last question, and then wrap it up. I'm sorry, Faiza, that I don't know if we have time to do two more, so I apologize. But I wanted to give you a chance just to talk about what you see as the future of voice interfaces like Alexa in the next 5 years. Just a great way to wrap things up. Where do you think things are going? How would you describe?
I'm always very hesitant in making future predictions. But I would say in the recent times, what we've seen is we started from command-based interfaces, and then we moved on to some amount of ambient intelligence, where these voice assistants could understand some of your context better. We are in that space of with Alexa Plus, where we call the agentic world of the AI, where AI can take actions on your behalf. Like, for example, we recently launched Alexa Plus, where you can use Alexa to just by your voice ask to book a cab. You can book a reservation at a restaurant or order food just by your voice, where the AI and the backend is doing the hard work for you and processing all of that information without you ever having to open the Uber app or the Grubhub app to actually do those actions. What I think next is again where this agentic world is actually married to the physical world. Right now, a lot of these interactions don't have the context of the physical world around them. And that, I believe, is going to be the next for voice assistants. Voice will become a modality. Voice assistants is just going to be, voice assistants is not just going to be curtailed to a device, but is going to be around with you. And like we as humans, we talk 4 times faster than we can type. So voice becomes those natural modality for you to interact and ask and interact with any agent around you, or ask questions, do certain tasks. The things that will make them truly useful is when they can understand the physical context around you and take physical actions around you. So if I had to take a stab at it, that's going to be the next for the assistants in general.
Gotcha. Thank you. I know it's hard to predict the future, but it's always good to get some perspectives.
Yeah,
Someone who's looking.
100%.
Yeah. Now, we really appreciate your time. I know we went a little over, but your generosity is shines through, and I know everyone learned quite a bit. So, thank you so much again for your time and for sharing your thoughts and insights. And we look forward to the next speaker series. But thank you so much, Abhai, and have a great rest of your day, everyone. Take care now.
Thanks, everyone.
Yeah.